So, what is a field test? First off, I believe it's the opportunity to better align research and interview questions to the chosen qualitative research design. Keeping in mind that there are many qualitative research designs, and each of them are designed for a specific reason. We will use a phenomenological research design to identify and report lived experiences of people. We do a case study to identify what people believe happened or could occur in a situation. There are other types of qualitative research designs, and what's important to know is that research questions and interview questions are written, they're worded different for each design. If you were to ask a phenomenological research question or interview question in a case study, you would get the wrong data. And more than likely, your research findings would not be accurate nor valid. And so, therefore, the idea of a field test is to help researchers, if you happen to be a doctoral student, help you get third-party points of view on your work to help ensure that the questions you're going to ask based on your research design are going to get you the data you need. Field test is also an opportunity to bring research subject matter experts to your project. Now, this is a point of concern, and I have heard and I've seen many faculty who truly do not understand what a field test is. Sometimes they'll say, we can do a field test with people from your research population. They are not research subject matter experts. They are content experts. They are the people who you're going to get information from for your questions that you ask. They are not the correct people to do a field test with. A field test is designed for research experts to review your work only from a research alignment perspective. These research subject matter experts are more than likely not content experts, and they do not need to be. If you want content experts, that's where you do an expert review, and I have a separate lesson on that in this program as well. The field test must be done with researchers who have expertise. Now, oftentimes you can find faculty at a university who teach research to be part of your field test. You would ask them to participate. But you also have to keep in mind some faculty are not qualitative research experts. A field test is only used in qualitative research, and you need qualitative experts. So if one or more faculty members are teaching only quantitative research, you would not want to ask them because they do not have the expertise, more than likely. There are a lot of faculty who only know one research design as compared to the others. I happen to be more of an expert in qualitative research. I am not quite the expert in quantitative research. So therefore, my participation in any development of research questions and survey questions is going to be limited compared to what I know about qualitative research. And there are many people who are great qualitative researchers who only work with qualitative research and students and mentoring of qualitative research. And there are many faculty who also are only quantitative, and they only focus on quantitative research and the specific designs within quantitative research. Now, there are some who are very good at both, but most are good at one and understand the other. I would personally suggest that you look for faculty who are teaching qualitative research courses. At most of the universities I've worked at over the years, I've taught the basic, the intermediate, and advanced qualitative classes. That in of itself makes me, from the university's perspective, a subject matter expert on qualitative research. They have decided that I have the qualifications. I didn't make those qualifications myself or self-proclaim that, oh, I'm a qualitative research expert. Now, I do believe I am one, but I can back it up with experience and by universities who have hired me to teach such classes. I can guarantee you no university has ever hired me to teach a quantitative research class. I understand quantitative research. I have done it myself in my own dissertation and in my own corporate work, but I do it with a research partner. Keep in mind you're looking for research subject matter experts. And if you're doing something in phenomenology, you want to make sure you have somebody who understands phenomenology and not only case study experts. Because even within qualitative research, not every faculty member, not every person understands all the different designs. Most universities have enough faculty to help you in this realm to provide you or have the availability of a pool for you to go to get enough people. Now, that being said, you can also have research experts that are not faculty at a university. For example, some faculty members also have other work, and not all people who do research are faculty members. In think tanks and in corporate research departments, a lot of the skilled, qualified subject matter experts in qualitative research do not teach. That's okay. Teaching is not a requirement. Subject matter expertise is the requirement. So in a field test, remember, you're looking for research subject matter experts. The idea of the field test is also an opportunity to improve the validity in the research. If you can help ensure that the interview questions are aligned to the research design and it's going to produce the correct data to generate information to make recommendations about, then the validity of your work is improved. You have more validity. Your work will be more valid when you have third-party subject matter experts reviewing your alignment of your research throughout your entire proposal before you start to collect data. Validity is important in qualitative research. We also refer to it more so as trustworthiness. And I have a complete lesson on trustworthiness also in this program for you. Now, a field test is what's known as work in qualitative research. You may have heard the word pilot study. Well, pilot study is only for quantitative research. One would do a pilot study after they have an IRB approval, Institutional Review Board, and that is with people who are from the research population. But in qualitative research, we do not do a pilot study, we do a field test. It's important to know the distinctions between the two. I hear a lot, and I've seen a lot as I've read through many proposals, talked with many students, and also faculty who have this confused. I had faculty say, oh, we need to do a pilot study for a case study. I'm like, no, not really. Well, it was the faculty member's first year being a committee member and didn't have a lot of extra experience, much like I was 20-some years ago when I started out. Believe me, I did not know all I know now then. And I feel bad sometimes for the mentees I worked with, but they got through nonetheless, and more so because I had experts around me to help me. Just like this faculty member I mentioned, I helped him. It's kind of how this whole thing works, where one person gets enough experience and they start helping the others. Kind of like why you have dissertation mentors and chairs who were once in the same situation you are writing a dissertation, now after many years have experience and can help you through the process. You should do a field test even if you're not doing academic research. When I do research in the corporate environments, I still do a field test. Keep in mind, again, the difference between a pilot study and a field test. Now, field test is conducted after an expert panel review and before submitting a proposal to an IRB for approval. This is not data collection, so you can do the field test with an expert panel review before you ever submit your proposal to a committee member to review. More than likely, if you're a doctoral student or if you're in a master's program and you're doing a thesis, you would work with one faculty member, maybe that person's called your advisor or your dissertation chair, and he or she will guide you through this process. But there is a concern that some students will submit their work to the Institutional Review Board and say that they're going to do the expert panel and field test after the IRB approval. The IRB approval will not come to you unless you do this first. Most universities have a requirement that you do a field test before submitting to an IRB. And many universities also have that you'll do an expert panel review before you do the field test. Just so happens I have another lesson on that expert panel review to help you understand how that is to be conducted and when to do it. and who should be involved in that. But keep in mind, a field test is to be done before you submit your proposal for approval. Now I'm going to give you some guidance, step-by-step process on how to conduct a field test. There may be some variation in how some faculty want it done, but this is how I guide my students and how I conduct a field test. So this is my recommendation to you, is work with your dissertation chair to align your research method and design to your central research question or questions, and then to the interview questions. It's your dissertation chair's responsibility to help you get about 90% of your proposal put together and aligned. The idea of the dissertation chair is to guide you through the bulk of the work, and then a committee member comes in later and gives you a review, much like an objective reviewer will do. But in a field test, what you want to do is first and foremost, always work with your dissertation chair, get your research method and design aligned, make sure that person has helped you already to make sure that your research questions and interview questions are aligned as best as possible. Then when that's done, with your dissertation chair, decide whether to let your committee members see before you conduct the field test. At many universities I work at, there is a dissertation chair and 1 or 2 committee members. If you have 1 or 2 committee members, communicate with your dissertation chair and ask your chair if he or she wants you to first have your committee members review your work. As a dissertation chair, I guide my students not to do this because, again, it's my responsibility as a dissertation chair to get as much work done as possible within the student's development of a proposal. The dissertation committee member should just see more so a final result and make any final changes or edits that maybe I missed or could be articulated better. But if we can give the committee members a well-aligned proposal with the field test completed, more than likely they're going to have little concerns with their interview and research questions. But again, talk with your dissertation chair. There's nothing wrong with having your committee members review your work before you start your field test. The next step is to invite, after you have identified 3 to 5 research subject matter experts in your chosen research method. So if you're going to do qualitative research like this program is all about, you would find 3 to 5 qualitative research subject matter experts. And again, if you can find them that are specifically tailored to your research design, that's ideal. These people for your field test cannot be committee members. You are going to have third-party reviewers who know nothing about your work, have never seen it before, take a view of your work in a very objective way and review it and provide you feedback. So the idea is try to get at least 3. You don't need more than 3, but sometimes you might have to invite more than 3 to get 3. 3 seems to be an ideal number because it's not even and it's not 1, but it gives you enough opportunity for a few different people to have their eyes on your work and offer you ideas. Once you've identified them, you want to separately send each your problem statement, your purpose statement, your central research question or questions, and interview questions. You can put that all in one document, or you can put it into an email note. Or if it's easier for you, you can submit your entire proposal to them. But keep in mind, you're asking people to help you. You send them a 120-page proposal, they're less likely to read that. Some will, others will not. I have found that what works best is give them only what they need. They don't need everything else to check the alignment of the problem statement, purpose statement, research questions, and interview questions. Once one knows what research design you're applying, they can examine your research question or questions, see if that aligns to the design, and then look at your interview questions and make sure your interview questions align. I'm going to have a whole complete lesson on developing research questions and interview questions in this program, so look for that as well. I've thought about everything for this program that you're enrolled in, so I hope you'll take the advantage of all the lessons and learn as much as you can to be a better informed consumer research. This is all you need to send them in an email. And notice I say separately. Don't send a group email. Faculty do not like group emails when that comes to them. Just say, In a private email, let's say the faculty members is Doug Jones, you would say, Dear Dr. Jones, I'm a doctorate student in whatever course you're enrolled. My dissertation chair is whoever. I'm conducting a field test, and I would request your participation. Can you help me by being a field test participant? Faculty like to be asked to help. People like to help other people, but they like to be asked. So you'll find that if you ask someone to help you, you're liable to get a better response than saying, hey, here's all my information, give me feedback for my field test. You may not get too many replies that way. Remember, you're asking people to donate some of their time and expertise to help you. They do not need to. They may not even know you. But most faculty, if you ask them nice and say, if you can return it within 5 business days or a week, they will help you as best as they can. The next step is ask these research experts to review your research and interview questions for alignment to your design. So don't be surprised, and I'll address this in a few moments. Not everybody understands what a field test is. When you ask help from somebody, give them as much specific guidance as you can. Ask them, would you please review my research and interview questions for alignment to my research design? Now, you would say what your research design is. If you have 10 interview questions, you might say, would you please review my 1 central research question and 8 interview questions for alignment to my multiple exploratory case study? That gives them everything they need to know basically in 1 or 2 sentences, right? Where you introduce yourself and you ask for help and tell them what you need. This is what you want to do. You ask them to review it for alignment. The key word here is alignment. Then once you get the feedback from these faculty members or research experts, whoever you have asked, then my recommendation is you first read it all and consider it. Remember, you're asking for feedback. Feedback is a gift for you. It doesn't mean you have to do everything that they tell you. It's for you to take into consideration, synthesize the inputs, then you analyze what they had to say, you make an evaluation, and probably with your dissertation chair, you decide whether you're going to change anything. It's not uncommon in a field test that no edits are done. If you have a dissertation chair who has a lot of expertise in your research method and design, and or you have it as well, then more than likely you're not going to have many concerns from faculty who are involved in your field test. On the other hand, if you get a lot of feedback, that's also a nice gift for you to have because you want to know it now instead of later. What I suggest you do is once you get at least 3 replies from 3 different experts, you go through that process of evaluating it. If it hasn't been already shared with your committee dissertation chair, then you want to make sure that person has it. When you send the emails, I would just put that person on as a courtesy copy to every email you send, and more than likely they'll be on the replies back from these experts. But then you get on the phone with your committee chair or Zoom or however you communicate, and then have a discussion and say, should I change anything? Maybe I'll change this word or phrase, or I don't need to ask, certain questions because they're duplicates. They didn't seem like it at first. But whatever feedback you get, I encourage you to discuss it with your dissertation chair, and if warranted, then change what you sent them, like perhaps there's a word or 2 in your research question or any of the interview questions. You do not have to change anything. All you're getting is feedback for you to consider whether you're changing. But the reality is, if 2 or 3 experts tell you something's wrong and they suggest something should be changed, and they all suggest the same thing, you're probably better off changing it, right? The next step is to write the entire process in Chapter 3. And this might take 3 paragraphs. Basically, you indicate that you had a field test, you started on such and such a date, you sent it to how many different faculty members who are expert in qualitative research. You never mention their names in your proposal or dissertation. You just say how many and that they have expertise. If they all happen to be university professors, that's fine, but no names. And then just indicate what kind of feedback you received, that you considered it, and you had a discussion with your dissertation advisor or your chair, and changes were made or they weren't made. You're just going to give a synopsis in about 2 or 3 paragraphs really high level of what occurred in the field test. And the field test would be its own major heading inside Chapter 3. You may have it a subheading under data collection if you want to, because technically in data collection, you're preparing your tool to start your data collection process. Then the 8th step here is if you had changes, I encourage you, when you're writing that 2 or 3 paragraphs, is in there indicate a copy of what you sent to the field test experts. And then if there were changes, you would then put in the next appendix what the changes were. So you might indicate something like this in the narrative. Appendix A was provided to 5 qualitative research subject matter experts for participation in the field test. And then you say what happened, and then you would conclude the section saying that the next appendix, let's say the first one was Appendix C, now in Appendix D, you'll find the revised questions as a result of the field test. This way, whoever reads the work will be able to see what was sent to the experts and what the final results are, and that narrative that goes in the chapter. That covers everything. Not only does this work for your committee members and the IRB and everybody at your university, but think about it also, if somebody wants to replicate your study later, they'll be able to see exactly what steps you went through. They'll be able to understand how you increased the validity of your work by the process that you went through. And all you're going to do is write the details. One of the things you're going to find in the Chapter 3 of a doctoral proposal and dissertation, the most important thing is excruciating details. Not just details, excruciating details. Give an explanation of everything that happened, the way it happened, and you'll be fine. So here are some field test concerns that you should know about. Not all faculty know this test. I can tell you without a doubt, many faculty will get the email you send them and they'll say, "What? I don't even know what a field test. Why are you sending this to me?" Because they've never done it before. And that's okay. Not everybody's done a field test. Not everybody knows everything. I can tell you 100% certainty, when I first started doing dissertation chair work, I did not know what a field test was. I wish I had, but I learned it along the way, and that's okay. So if a faculty member replies to you and say, "I'm not on your committee, why are you sending me this, or what's a field test?" Don't feel bad. You can either explain to them what it is, or you can just say, "Thank you very much," and let them be on their way. Not everybody wants to be an expert. Not everybody wants to donate their time. It's hard to believe, but some faculty will get your email and never reply to you. So my suggestion is go to 5 or more faculty initially, and when you get 3 of them, then stop. If initially you sent it out to 5 faculty and 4 or 5 reply to you within the time frame, great. Use all that information. Nothing wrong with that. But if somebody doesn't reply, my recommendation is give them, again, 5 days, 5 business days, whatever you said. If you don't hear from them, just scratch them off the list and keep track of that. Say, well, I sent out 7 requests to different people. I only had 3 replies. That's everything we need to know. It's unfortunate, but some faculty just do not want to participate. Maybe they're afraid to make a commitment in giving guidance on something that may not be as an expert as you might think they are, or they just don't have time, or they just don't care. People are people. If you don't get a reply, don't pester them. Say, "Hey, I sent you an email 5 days ago. Why the heck haven't you replied?" Just let it go. You may not like what you get. If your work is not aligned well, or some of these faculty that you send your information to, or these experts, whether they're faculty or not, they may want to look at your work and give you all sorts of feedback. Some faculty and experts will want to take control. They'll say, "Oh, why are you asking this? Maybe you should ask this." Or, "Gee, I didn't see a question about, this. I would ask this question." It is what it is. You're only getting feedback that you can take. My recommendation is always, with any feedback, say thank you for the feedback, because it's a gift to you. Then whatever you do, you do. If a faculty member says, "I'd really like to see the end result," nothing wrong. When the dissertation's done, send them a copy of the final result after it's approved. Let them see the value of their work to you. But let them see the final product in case they got some concern they want you to change something along the way. I would never let them see the full proposal after any changes were done or not done based on their feedback. you can certainly offer the final result as an opportunity to share your results with them if they happen to find your work of value. This field test might require more work and time than you want to devote to it, but I can pretty much guarantee you it's not that much more time. Really, what's it take? You put the problem statement, purpose statement, research question, interview questions together. You send 5 or 7 emails. You wait 4 or 5 days. In those 4 or 5 days, you can be doing other things. You can be proofreading your chapter. You can be looking at your work and making it better. You can be working in chapter 2. You can be preparing for your IRB application. There's a lot of work you can do. So don't worry about this. It's not going to be that much work. And then when you get the results back, it's going to be maybe a phone call with your dissertation chair for 30 or 40 minutes. You're going to write 3 or 4 paragraphs about what happened. It's not going to take you that long, but it is going to be a little bit more work than if you didn't have to do one. And some students will say, well, I don't need to do one. Oftentimes, if I have a student who has their proposal aligned well, because they know the research method and design well, they crafted a research question or questions well, and it's aligned, and their interview questions are aligned, I will not require them to do a field test. Because why should I require them to do something they don't really need? But I would often recommend they still do it for the experience of doing the field test. Keep in mind that a dissertation is an academic exercise, and I wish I had been required to do a field test on the qualitative component of my mixed method study. I would have learned it then. It was never required. My committee member said, yeah, your questions are good, don't worry about it. And I didn't worry about it, and I didn't need to because it was well developed. I had great guidance. But the reality is, if you're going to teach, if you are a faculty member who's listening to this, or you happen to be a master's student, you're not sure what you're going to do in regards to teaching or not, do the field test. Don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal. And it's very helpful. And you never know, some of these faculty who read your work may find it of interest and may want to learn more about what you're doing, and could be a great networking opportunity for you to do other things. They're research experts to help you ensure that your work is developed better, it's going to be more sound, it's going to be more valid, and it's going to be significant and substantial. I hope you found value in this lesson.